For over 7 decades, Willie Nelson's unmistakable voice has defined American music. His sound, rich with the grit of red dirt roads and the bittersweet weight of Sunday morning regrets, has transcended genres and generations. With more than 200 albums, over 10,000 live performances, and an iconic catalogue, Nelson became a legend not because the world embraced him, but because it didn't, and he sang anyway. His voice and songs resonated deeply with the struggles of everyday life, turning heartbreak into hymns, failure into anthems, and Outlaw living into a philosophy that millions adopted. But beyond the music and the legend is a man shaped by loss, rejection, and a refusal to give up. His story is not one of fame won easily, but of a life stubbornly lived on his own terms. A rough beginning in Abbott, Texas. Willie Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in Abbott, Texas, a small town that promised little. His parents, Ira and Myle Marie Nelson, were both very young, his father just 20 and his mother 16, when they married in the tough Depression-era South. Their marriage was more about survival than love, and it quickly unraveled. By the time Willie was just 6 months old, his parents walked away, leaving him and his sister Bobby in their grandparents' care. Raised by Alfred and Nancy Nelson, Willie's childhood was shaped not by comfort, but by poverty and emotional abandonment. His grandparents, deeply religious and rooted in Methodist traditions, raised him with music, faith, and a strict work ethic. However, the absence of his parents left a permanent mark on Willie, a silent, everyday grief that would follow him throughout his life. Music as a lifeline. From a young age, music became Willie's solace and survival mechanism. While most children played with toys, Willie held his first guitar at 6 years old, a gift from his grandmother Nancy. She was the one who taught him to read music, believing it was the one thing in life that could carry him far. Growing up, Willie listened to a variety of music, gospel, western swing, and blues, all of which became part of his musical DNA. Music gave him a voice when the world around him was silent, and through it, he could express what he could not say in words. By age 9, he was already playing in a local poker band, earning his first dollars from music. By 10, he was writing his own songs, reflecting a maturity in his words that was rare for someone so young. In a life full of hardship, music was Willie's only constant. A teenager with a guitar, and a dream Willie's teenage years were marked by a sense of being out of place, both in the classroom and in his small Texas town. While other kids excelled in school and extracurricular activities, Willie's mind was elsewhere, focused on his guitar and the songs swirling in his head. Abbott, Texas, with its endless fields and quiet, dusty roads, wasn't the kind of place that fostered big dreams. But for Willie, the fields and the hard labor taught him about dignity, about working with his hands and earning an honest living. He picked cotton and baled hay alongside men much older than him, learning the value of hard work. But it was the music that truly shaped his life. As a teenager, he absorbed everything he could from local honky-tonk bands and radio stations, knowing that music was the only way he could truly be seen. Leaving Abbott and chasing a dream. In 1950, after graduating high school, Willie Nelson left Abbott with little more than ambition and hunger. Like many small-town boys, he believed that beyond the county line, there was a world waiting for him. However, that world wasn't as welcoming as he had imagined. He joined the US Air Force in hopes of finding structure and purpose, but a back injury led to an honorable discharge, leaving him with no clear direction. Back in Texas, Willie drifted through a series of odd jobs, selling Bibles, working as a plumber's apprentice, and pumping gas. None of these jobs were steps toward his dream. They were simply ways to survive. But no matter what he did, he kept playing music, performing at honky-tonk bars and radio stations. He worked as a DJ in San Antonio and Vancouver, Washington, honing his voice and developing the connection with listeners that would define his career. Writing masterpieces in poverty. Despite his personal struggles, Willie Nelson's songwriting began to shine. He wrote songs with an intensity and depth that belied his difficult circumstances. In a small apartment in Fort Worth, with a broken heater and a wife growing colder by the day, he wrote "Funny How Time Slips Away," "Hello Walls," and "Crazy," some of his most enduring hits. These songs, written in poverty and cold, were later recorded by stars like Patsy Cline, Fair and Young, and Billy Walker. While Willie struggled with financial hardship, his songs were climbing the charts. "Crazy," sung by Patsy Cline, became a timeless classic, one of the most covered country songs in history. However, the man who had written these masterpieces was still working in obscurity, and Nashville was slow to recognize his talent. Nashville's rejection and the cost of fame. Nashville, in the 1960s, was a city that ran on a very specific formula. The Nashville sound was polished and smooth, appealing to the broadest possible audience. This formula did not have room for Willie Nelson, whose raw emotional delivery didn't fit the manufactured mold. When he arrived in Nashville in 1960, he had only $31 in his pocket and a deep belief that his music had a place in the world. But Nashville's gatekeepers were dismissive of him. They couldn't understand his phrasing, his voice, or the sincerity in his delivery. They told him his voice belonged on a small radio station, not a major label. One producer even suggested he focus solely on songwriting and leave the performing to people who looked and sounded the part. Nashville took his songs, but rejected him as an artist. The struggles of selling his songs. Despite the rejection from Nashville, Willie Nelson's songs began to take off. "Hello Walls" became a #1 hit for Fair and Young, and "Funny How Time Slips Away" was recorded by several artists. But the man who had written these songs received little credit or compensation. For "Crazy," Willie sold the song to Patsy Cline's publisher for just $50, an amount that would seem absurd today. In a time when songwriters had little leverage, Willie was forced to sell his music for far less than it was worth. The music industry of the 1960s didn't care about the man who wrote these masterpieces. It cared only about the commercial success of the songs. For Willie, the success of his songs was bittersweet, knowing that others were profiting from his hard work while he was left in poverty. The moment that changed everything. Despite the setbacks and hardships, Willie Nelson's determination never wavered. He continued to write, perform, and push forward, believing that one day his time would come. It wasn't until the mid-1970s that Willie finally found his place. His breakthrough came with the release of Red-Headed Stranger, an album that established him as a major force in country music. The success of the album marked the beginning of his rise to fame, but it was not without cost. Willie had fought for decades, through personal loss, rejection, and financial struggle, to get to this point. His career was not handed to him. It was earned through sheer grit, determination, and a belief that his music, no matter how the world viewed it, was worth hearing.